So we're making one more of these, it's like a 6.5 inch or 6 inch diameter pipe at a 10 gauge. And I'm just going to show you the best way to roll something like this, because you can see it's a nice circle as it joins up. So I'm going to go over that. So this is the pipe flat pattern laid out. What we were going to do is, because the roller leaves a flat section in the beginning, especially as you get smaller, it gets more amplified. You see it more. So you could use the hydraulic brake press, but this is fine as well. I'm just going to put a little kink, essentially like step brake. I'm going to step brake for the beginning. Just pull it out, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch more. So if you're rolling some stuff, sometimes it's handy if we don't have a gauge set up. So you can see I have this gauge and I'm eyeballing this. So I'm going to both sides. So you want to make sure it's nice and square. You can make sure it's nice and square by pushing it up against the second roll. I'm going to clamp it with this lower one. And this one back here, there's a gauge over there that reads the depth of that, but that's going to be the roller that pushes it and bends it. This is just a clamping roller. You just want to snug. Now you want to flip it, and I hold it nice and square and I roll it in there. I'm going to bring this up probably 4 or 5 cranks. So now when I'm coming around, you can see right here it roll over itself. So you want to either pop that out or just be really careful, because it won't go through the rollers. There you go. So I'm going to unclamp this, wind this out, pull this out. So you can see how, because we started this step brake, it turns out to be a pretty good circle. And you can see it's not quite square, so what we're going to use is a pipe clamp to pull this square. Clamp here, and pull it square. If it's big, you can use a ratchet strap, and we're going to just use a Betsy clamp to hold this together. Okay, and now what we're going to do is clamp it with a Betsy clamp. And again, like, you can use a ratchet strap if you need to wrap it around. And I'm feeling this with my finger, because if this side's a bit high, which it is, I might clamp it down a little bit more like this. There, that's good. And again, when tacking stuff, like, I just lean the nozzle on there and tack it. I'm going to work my way down here. So I have it tacked here, and I just had a piece of scrap metal that just have it tacked here. You can lean it up on something, it doesn't matter. With the plasma cut and where it comes together, I can see a little groove in here, but I'm just going to make sure. Okay, so I got this nice and solid. I got just a scrap piece of angle, not a scrap, but a small piece of angle. I didn't cut something special. You could use flat bar, you can use tubing, whatever. This just was around the same length. And I'm just gonna run a trial run like this. And this just helps me move nice and quick and keep my weld nice and straight. Okay, just like that. So you can see I just got a couple pinholes across, but that's probably from moving too fast. And right down here, this is where that gap was. So I'm just gonna touch that up. But I only tacked the front side of this angle so I can just break that off. So I'm just gonna zap this up. And if you can put a hard disc on. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna blend this in. Like that. So I just hit it nice and flat to get the high spots off, and when you put a paint on this, like the little tacks and spots are just going to look like a little hiccup in the weld. So just make sure you grind all the little tacks off that you had. I just ground this off where I had it held up on the bench, and this is just something for like a piece of process shoot, so nothing super critical, but you can see that one doesn't perfectly line up, but it's pretty good. This one, looking at it, you can't even really tell. So when I was grinding this, just to make it clear, there were some spots where the weld wasn't, it was kind of over here a bit. So I just hit this and I just used the tip of this disc just to straighten out the weld. So it looks like one straight little seam. Just make sure at the end of it that you go with a scraper and knock all the spatter off. So just to compare, I'm going to roll this 6-inch ring, and I'm going to show you the difference without bending the beginning. So even flipping it back and forth, even it's only rolled this much, you can see it's starting out. I'll show you when it's done. So you can pretty much see from about here to here, it's not even bent. So that's why you're going to see it a lot more on, it's almost like a pyramid here. You're going to see it a lot more on smaller stuff, but anything like 8-inch or 10-inch, if you flip it back and forth, it'll end up pretty good. I mean, this is okay, but when you go to weld this too here, it's going to shrink and make it pointed even more. So it's just helpful to keep this, to do that first little step bending at the beginning. It helps a lot.